Okay, it's 5:30. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Lincoln County School District tax hearing. Mr. Rowe has one letter that we received, and he will read that, and we can make comments and talk then.
Oh, they just cut me off. Let's get back in.
Okay, well, am I back on now? Kick me off for a second. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you can see me there. Okay. Let me read the, we did receive one person who made a comment, wanted it, so I'll read that to everybody here. It says, in the middle of a pandemic, we do not need more taxes. I am saying no to tax fund levy. Families are struggling already. We cannot get food delivered to our kids, only to certain schools. Parents who work cannot get out food for the kids. Parents are struggling to find sitters to help their kids with schoolwork. We are trying to figure out how to get the internet under $80 per month so our kids can do online. We cannot get hotspots, but you want to tax us. No thanks. That's the only comment that we have.
All right, do any of you have any comments?
I'll just add to what was Mr. Rowe said there. There was some couple of people contacted me with basically the same comment. They said we was against the tax back earlier, whenever the recallable nickel went ahead and told it to do away with it instead of putting it on the ballot on account of the coronavirus, and they thought right now would be a bad time to go ahead and add more tax to the tax bill. So
I'll echo that, Alan. I've had a few say that as well, because we had said back a few months ago that it wasn't the time to be raising taxes. So I'll echo that. I guess I have a question. Can we ask those?
I suppose so.
Just what would be some things that the board would have to consider if we didn't take that 4%?
I think one of the bigger things you have to consider is if you don't take the 4%, then that affects you on down the road also, you know, because the 4%, and it's, you say 4%, but it's not a true 4%.
Right.
It does affect you on down the road because it doesn't build upon. And every year we never know exactly what our assistance is going to be from the state. And, you know, this is one thing that we do have a control over. And I'm always suspicious of, you know, how they're going to fund us from year to year with SEEK and everything else. You know as well as I do, being in education, you know, they'll raise one and then cut three on us, 3 pots of money. And so that I understand the feelings. Of course, I also know this just affects property owners. And I understand that also. I've got mixed feelings, but I also know it's the only money we have control over. So, Mr. Rowe, would you like to add anything to that? Apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I say the same thing with what Mr. Smith had just said. Kind of some notes that I have to share with you, and I'll answer any questions you have after I share that. Right now, our contingency if we do the 4%, which is what is in our working budget we're talking about tonight, our contingency is around 5.7%, which is the highest that's been since my tenure here, since 2016. If we do not take the 4% and we do the compensating rate, that would lower us down to right at 4%. So you're looking at about a 1.7% difference. The difference in money for this year would be $237,000. It brings in $237,000 more if we do the 4% increase. And like Mr. Smith said, this is compounded. So if we don't take that this year, then a couple of years down the road, that money could grow into something a whole lot larger. The 4% increase would increase our rate from 54.5 cents per $100 to 55 cents per $100. So that's 0.5 cents. So on a $100,000 house or property, your taxes would go from $545 to $550, which is $5. On a $200,000 house or property, double that, so it would go to $10 difference. The biggest concern that I have right now is the uncertainty of COVID-19. We were lucky, as most or all school districts were, to get the CARES funding. That's allowed us to do a lot of things with it. Right now, we don't know what's going to look like next year for a budget. If there's not additional money coming from the feds, I've said it before, the state cannot print money, only the feds can print the money, then there's going to be a drastic cut to seek, not just for us, for everybody. And that's just something to keep in the back of our minds. Again, I mean, I understand that this goes to property owners, and we're not the only entity that's always asking to raise taxes on them. Unfortunately, that's what the Constitution has for us, is that's the way we're going to fund it. Now, this year we were able to, with our CARES funding, we did cut the Chromebook fees, and we were able to provide school supplies. And that's something I'd like to be able to do in the future, even without that, because I'd like to get to the point where we charge no fees to any of our students. So that's just a couple of the things I've got with you. But the board has the option of going anywhere from the compensating rate all the way up to 4% without talking about recall. That's totally up to what the board wants to do.
What kind of budgetary cuts are we going to have to make if we do not take the 4%? Are we looking at with knowing the big picture of things? And I guess Leanne would probably be able to help with this too. But with the unknown with finances this time next year, what kind of financial shape are we going to be in if we do not take it? And how many jobs are we going to have to cut? And how much money is the district going to lose as a whole if we don't accept it or take it?
Leanne, do you have an answer for that? Are you in?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Well, Ricky, like Mr. Rowe was saying, the difference in the compensating and the 4% rate is $237,000. So we're either going to have to slash that contingency down, or we're going to have to make a cut somewhere. I don't know if there are areas that you all would feel. I mean, where do you feel like cuts would need to be made? I mean, I guess I would be looking for input from you all if you guys are making that decision. I don't really know. And you ask, what are we going to look like with the budget this time next year? That is the $1 million question within school finance, because honestly, we don't really know. We have no way of knowing how long this pandemic's going to last. How long we're going to be in, out of school. How's that going to affect our enrollment numbers? If it carries on, will there be more money coming from the Fed, from the state? I don't know the answer to those questions. I also have a fear with the CARES money that has already been rolled out. How is that going to impact future funding, even for just regular grant sources that we typically see money from? So there are a lot of unanswered questions. I know I really didn't answer you directly, but to speak to the difference between the 4% and the compensating rate, I guess you guys would have to say, do we want to cut that contingency down? Or is there an area that you feel like, I don't know. I would just need input from you guys and from, the staff, admin staff on that. I don't really have a particular place where I can say, hey, I feel like we're overfunded here. So right off the bat, that's where we would cut from.
We had some savings, like when we changed the nursing program, and then there were some cuts, like in the academic coaches, there were some savings there. I'm not so sure with those other things. I know, like with remind me on all the counselors, the extra counselors that we were looking at. Did we end up saving some money there?
It was about a 1-for-1, like especially at the middle school. We just lost a principal and picked up our assistant principal and picked up a counselor there. And then I think we did we pick up another one in Stanford Elementary somewhere? I can't remember right off top. I don't have all those notes with me in front of me, Bruce.
We did say, or you guys said when we picked up the 2 extra SROs that we used the nursing money toward that.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Right.
it wasn't an exact swap on that money, but we did use a good portion of that toward that extra expense.
So probably we only saved where those 2 academic coaches cut in. I think that was about $98,000.
Well, we've kind of examined where we're at. I don't think, the choices are not to take or take the 4%, as we know, but.
Did Leanne get off? I was going to ask her a question if she knew what money we needed for the actual step increases for our salaries and stuff.
Leanne, you still?
I'm sorry, what was that? Are you wanting to know how much?
Like the step increases each year for the salaries, how much is that going to be this year? Do you have any idea?
I don't know that right off the top of my head, but I could get that number for you.
I know in years past, basically the 4% or it took part of that to make up the difference in the pay. And I was just wondering if we could meet a common ground, if 2% would partially cover that, what I'm getting at,
Okay.
maybe help the public a little bit and still help the school system as well, have a
Okay.
common ground.
Okay.
Cause wouldn't that equivalent out basically to $115,000, be half of what you said, right?
Yeah, I could run the numbers on that, and it would take me just a little bit because you kind of have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis who went up a step and how much did that cost us.
And I'll just be honest, I don't feel comfortable at all dipping into that contingency fund, especially for something like this. I mean, we've got, again, with the unknowns that are coming with the years to come, I just don't, 4%, I know that's kind of the minimum it needs to be. It's still something I'm not comfortable with. And I know that we're not a savings account type operation. I understand that. But I also believe that rainy days are coming. And COVID-19 is a very, very good example of that. But what's to come after? What's the repercussions of this several years down the road that I don't know about, that you don't know about? And I just don't feel like, and I don't agree with cutting teachers' positions either, but I just think dipping into a contingency fund that we've worked so hard for, I think we should use it when there's absolutely no means necessary to do anything else. And we happen to be set in a position to where we have another option. And that's just my 2 cents on that contingency piece.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ricky. When I'm looking at a $50 million budget and a contingency of, $1.4 million, it doesn't seem like very much money.
No.
It would be my desire for myself and the board to work together through the years to continue to build that.
Yep, I agree.
Well, Leanne, if you don't mind, crunching some of the numbers to meet board members' requests and get that out to us in an email so we can look at that,
Yeah, sure. I can definitely do that.
That'll help. Anyone else? So I guess basically at this point,
17 minutes left.
we have 17 minutes left.
You can go ahead and sing the national anthem when you're there with the flag.
I'm not very good a cappella.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I know. I didn't do that on purpose. I was just trying to see if it helped feedback any.
Well, we've got the time. Let's talk about it. I mean, is there anything else we need to think about? I mean, do we need to be thinking about areas of potential places to make the cuts if we're going to have to make them? Is this the time to talk about that or not? If we don't take the compensate or the 4%?
Okay. Okay. Leanne, you still there?
Yep.
So we have to make the decision when, by what date on this tax rate?
I'll tell you what, we have 45 days. I have a calendar here. Let me see. I had marked out 45 days. You have 45 days from the date of certification. There's always a time crunch because there's a process involved. Of course,
Right.
we had to advertise this, and then you have the public hearing, and
Mhm.
then you have to get it all sent in so that the tax bills can come out. I believe that 45 days would be on September the 18th. So that would be next Friday.
Okay.
That would be the last possible date, that we could set that and be within the 45-day
Okay.
threshold.
That's all I was curious if we had, for you to put those numbers together, get them back out to us, and then we can set up when we may have another call meeting to take a vote on this.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, so, and just to make sure, Alan, that I am getting all the information you want, you would like to know the step increases, how much that cost was to the district this school year?
Yeah, I think last year it was somewhere in the 140 or 150 range. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not certain about that, but I think it was somewhere close. And
Yeah,
the year before, I think it was basically 120 or 130,000. I mean, I don't know how much it changes from year to year, but that's kind of what I was interested in.
yeah, sure. That's not a difficult thing to put together, but it will take me just a little bit of time, and I can get that together tomorrow, and I'll send that out to you all.
Right. I mean, it's not. I mean, I figure we're going to go ahead and vote on the tax tonight. I mean, it probably not going to vary much from what it has been, will it? I mean, is that something that goes up and down a lot, or
I mean, it would just kind of vary on your job force, but probably it's going to be average out to a same amount every year.
Okay.
You typically wouldn't see a big spike in that
that's
from
kinda
year
what
to year.
Thank you.
I do got a question that would be worth talking about tonight. Maybe I know part of the answer, but I'd love to hear it. Anyhow, can we have a little discussion, maybe from Leanne or Mike, about the difference between the recallable nickel and the 4%, and how those monies can be used and applied, and how that's different? I think maybe that might be something that would be helpful to the people listening, obviously, and us as a board to understand how that money's allocated in a recallable nickel versus this.
I can speak to the 4% increase. The main difference between a 4% revenue increase and the recallable, obviously the 4% is not recallable. You are required to have the public hearings and the advertisements, but if the board so chooses to approve that, it is not recallable by petition. So if the board says we're going to do it, then it happens that way. What the money can be used for, how I specified it was just that it would be used toward general fund expenses. So whatever need we had, I really, when I advertised it, did not make it very specific, not knowing what the needs of the future year would look like. But it would just go toward the general fund and be used toward general fund expenditures.
Right.
Mr. Rowe would probably be better at speaking to the recallable nickel. I wasn't here during that, so I'm sure he's probably got some more research in on that than I do.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, the recallable nickel tax is a restricted fund. So basically, if a district is successful and does get a recallable nickel tax, basically that can be used for either building new facilities, major renovation of facilities, or purchasing property to build new facilities on. So that would be the only thing that a nickel tax could be used for, and it's put into a special account and takes KDE approval in order to use that for any specific thing. As for the 4%, it is something that you can put in your budget and basically use as the board sees fit.
Okay. Sorry, guys, it takes a long time to move my fingers. I guess one of the questions I have for you guys, do you want to go ahead and take a vote tonight, or do you want to get more information first?
I'd say we go ahead and vote, because if this be another time we have to get together
Right.
for just that purpose.
Okay.
I agree.
Because
All right.
it has to be done next week regardless, correct?
Yeah. All right. I was just checking. $11 minutes.
kids on this one now.
Mhm.
It's not giving them any time to do it.
Right. I may go on and move out of here so we can eliminate this feedback, 'cause it's just making it way too jumpy.
You want to talk to them all, so they say-
Okay, that's fine. All right. We're gonna eliminate the feedback problem.
I'm gonna move to get the sun out of my eyes.
Mr. Rowe, before you leave, the resignation letter, we need to read that.
You can.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Are we still live?
Yes,
Okay.
but we're not being broadcast, of course.
Oh, it's not broadcast?
This meeting's not broadcast, no.
Right now, we're not broadcast.
That is correct.
I was just curious, like, when this person made that comment about the food service, some districts
Okay, at 6 o'clock, we will adjourn our tax meeting and call to order the special called meeting for the Lincoln County Board of Education. First item on our agenda is the acceptance of a board member. It's a resignation letter. Last Friday, Tom Blankenship presented the following letter to Superintendent Rowe. Said, I wish to take these means to let you know that due to present opportunities, I am retiring from the Lincoln County Board of Education, effective at noon Saturday, September 5th, 2020. As I depart, I can reflect on many great things that have occurred over the years. I wish you, your great support staff, and all the board members success in the coming year. Sincerely, Tom Blankenship. He made this decision, kind of surprised us all. But we will move on. We wish him luck in what he does. And obviously the years he gave to this district are to be commended. And I wish him luck. Hope he finds something to occupy his time with. The next item on this agenda is because he was the board chair, we need to elect a new board chairman. This position will serve from September the 10th till the end of the year. And then, of course, we'll have a new election in January. So at this time, I will open it up for nominations for a board chair.
Before we do that, do we need to make a motion to accept the
That's
board?
what I was going to say. It's needed a motion to accept.
I apologize.
That's fine.
I'll make
Do
a
we have,
motion to accept.
okay. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second.
Okay, we'll take the vote. Bruce,
yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes, sir.
and I also vote yes. Now, we have to elect a new board chairperson, and I'll open it up for nominations.
I have a quick question before we
Okay.
nominate or do any such. I know most organizations, that's the purpose of having a vice chairperson or a vice president or there along those lines. Seeing as we only have 3 months remaining in the year before the next one, I mean, is it in our policy that we have to elect a chairman, or can we just operate under the vice chair position? Does that make sense? I mean, most time the duties fall. I mean, if something happened to the president of the United States, the vice president takes over. It's not necessarily that we elect another president.
Right.
So that's my only comment.
Yeah. Well, part of the deal is, of course, the position of vice chair would have to be made into the chair. And I don't know the procedure on that, Mr. Rowe.
Well, Mr. Baker, let's let him talk first.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I think that we need to elect one, a chairman, and then a vice chair. Now, if for some reason a vote is tied or not able to come up with a majority, but the vice chair would continue in the chairman role till the end of the term of Mr. Blankenship, or the vice chair, or the chair.
If we need to do it as far as just keeping things straight, I'll make the nomination that we roll the position of vice chair of Wynn Smith into the chairperson, and then we elect a vice chairperson. Can that be put as a motion?
Yes.
Sounds like you just did it. Do we have a second?
Second, Ricky.
Second, Bruce,
Okay. Roll call. Bruce,
yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to abstain. So. All right. Next up, we need to elect a board vice chairman. Serves from September the 10th through the end of the year. Open up for nominations for that position.
Do I need to make the nomination since I'm the only one not eligible? I don't really know. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me.
I'll nominate Ricky. Okay. No second.
Oh, you don't have to second a
Oh,
nomination. You just got to call for nominations to cease, and then
oh, I'm sorry. All right. No other nominations will cease. Since Ricky's our only nominee, we'll go ahead and vote anyway. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
I'll vote in affirmative also. Ricky?
I abstain, please.
Okay. Mr. Baker, did we handle that correctly?
Yes,
Thank you. I apologize for my
that is fine.
uneasiness at this point. All right. We now have to talk about filling the open board seat process. Mr. Rowe, would you handle that for us?
Yes, this is something new, and I think a couple of you, if not all of you, probably have had some training through KSBA on what would happen if we have an open board seat. I put quite a few attachments in the e-meeting portal. The one I'm going to go over with really quick is the process of what this looks like. First of all, we have to vote to accept the board member resignation, which the board has already done. At that point, now we start the 60-day time period for the appointments. Looking at it from now to election, not including today, is 54 days. So basically, the board could choose somebody before the election, or the board could actually choose somebody after the election. That would be at your choosing. I have to send a letter to the Secretary of State, Sonny Spoonamore, the Commissioner of Education, and a person at KSBA announcing the vacancy that allows the process to start. We also have to put 2 consecutive weeks of advertisement in our local paper, letting people know a position on the board is open, letting them know what it is, and pointing them in the correct direction of where they can get an application to fill out for this. Once that is all done and completed, and Mr. Spoonamore confirms that the applicants who have applied do reside in District 5, then the board can choose whatever process they want to pick somebody to fill out the remaining term till December the 31st. You can do interviews or not do interviews. But I think the big question we have now is, do we want to, I definitely have to go through my part of the process. Does the board feel at this point to wait till the election, or do we want to have somebody in place before the election?
My feelings on the whole deal is, I mean, as far as the procedure goes, if we wait till the election, is the one that gets elected, are they not the one that takes the seat at that time, just as old Wade Bruce did his? I mean,
no, this one is
because Bruce didn't wait, because truth be known, at the election when Bruce won, he took immediate seat instead of waiting until January. So, correct?
Yes,
Well,
but that
what do you have to do there?
That was an appointment of the commissioner at that time.
Yeah, but the thing about it, that appointment there was supposed to be good. He was supposed to finish filling Teresa's term out, which would have expired in December, correct?
Yes, but this is different. The writing is different now that it's come back to the board versus what it was when it was with the commissioner making the appointment. Does that make sense?
It also says in that policy there, though, that if we don't make a decision within 60 days, the commissioner appoints somebody, correct?
It does. My honest opinion on that part would be, I don't know the time frame. Would a commissioner have time to appoint somebody if the board failed to do that in that amount of time? We got a new commissioner coming in. It's going to be a lot on his plate. I'm not saying he wouldn't do that, but the turnaround time to me would be rather quick for them to have to do that. But here's
I think what we need to do would be, within the first 30 days, we have to run the 2 advertisements. Then you have, a total of 60 days to make an appointment if you wish. If the individuals are running for the election, both apply, that's something that the board can consider within those 60 days. And at any point during those times, if you want to do interviews, you certainly can do interviews, and those are in closed session, so it would not be public. But I think that we need to advertise in those next 30 days, the 2 times, and then obviously whoever's interested in the position can apply, and that's who the board would have to consider.
My only thing about that, it would be, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, I'll get to you in just a second if that's okay.
Right.
My only concern about that is if you have the 2 people who are running apply for this interim slot and we pick between those 2, it looks like you're endorsing somebody for that position, and I would want to avoid that.
Well, absolutely. I understand that. I'm not saying, but you can also make the appointment within those 6 days after the election.
Bruce, did you have a
Is that-
comment?
I was gonna just ask, it only has to be posted for 2 weeks, right?
I think that's the way I read it.
2 times.
Yes.
I think logistically, and that's just kind of the way I'm looking at it here. If we can legally wait until the election is over with and go ahead and make that person interim and then make them full time in December, or however that would look like, I think just strategically from a board standpoint, I think it'd be easier for us. I think that, and I'm not going to speak on Leanne's behalf, but I think that getting somebody in here and then have to pay them for a month or two and then have to turn around and terminate them and then pay somebody else for a month or two. It may be easy. I don't know. Just thinking logistically and, cohesiveness that we've tried to gather in the board here as we make decisions for the board. I think that if we could wait until the election, know exactly who that person's going to be, begin the process and know that in December that's going to be the same person, I just believe it benefits us all very, very well.
So let me ask this question. So like when the election is held on November the 3rd, and once the clerk certifies that, the person that was elected would start immediately, right?
No,
Mm-hmm.
they would
No,
not start until January.
January 1.
We would
So
have to appoint them to the interim slot,
Yes.
correct?
So
Yeah.
that's changed from when I started, because
Yeah.
I started immediately.
Yeah.
Well, there's different rulings on it. If somebody has more than a year left on their term when they resign, then there's a certain set of rules. If it's less than a year, then it's a certain set of rules.
Okay.
This is a little bit different.
I agree with Ricky a little bit. Well, I agree with him a whole lot, to be honest with you, because it just seems like we're doing a lot of stuff for a very narrow period of time. If that's something that we could legally do, that would be what I would lean toward. I don't know, Mr. Baker, is there a hole in that logic?
No, I mean, I think that if that's what the board wishes, is just to move along how the election turns out, and I understand that makes common sense. We certainly have a narrow window there following the election. The only hiccup I could say would be is if the election results are slow coming in, just due to any, I don't know, mail-in ballots or anything like that. That may be the only stressor that we would have in making an appointment.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other comments?
I definitely think that, if we have to go through this process, that's one thing, but we definitely don't need to select anyone until after the election, regardless of what takes place, for the simple fact that we're showing favoritism towards one person or other, no matter whose applies. It's a more or less what it amounts to. There's four of us saying that's who needs to be on there versus the whole county saying who they want on there. And I would rather, no matter who gets appointed or who gets elected, I would rather wait until after the election to appoint anyone if that's the way it has to be done.
Okay.
I agree.
Do we have to have any kind of motion on this, or?
No, that just by statute, we have to, within the next 30 days, get those two advertisements out. We have, through our policies and procedures, we have the forms for anybody who's interested to fill it out and turn it in. They have the requirements to bring in if their educational background, as you all are aware, and things like that to be considered. But no, we don't have to take any action at this point. We just go ahead and run the advertisements and move along this our procedure and by the statute.
Okay.
And so by the timeline, when will those applications have to be turned in?
Let's see, that is within, I believe within that 30 days.
In other words, we have to have it advertised for 2 weeks, and then all applications have to be in within 30 days.
Let me double check that.
We are going to put it in the paper on the 17th and the 24th. So the second one will be run on Thursday, the 24th.
Bruce, do you want to go ahead and get your?
So my question is not looking at when's our 60 days going to be up, because I think it starts as tomorrow, right?
60 days will be up on, well, I know at November the 3rd, not counting today, it's going to be day 54. So add 6 days to that, November the 9th.
Okay.
So it operates off calendar days, not
Yeah,
work
correct.
days, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Baker, you checking the calendar?
I'm checking the date in which they would need to be applied. not the
Okay,
current date.
thank you.
Yes, it'd be 60 days from today, so that would be correct, I think, that November 10th.
Okay. Any delay in election results should be taken care of by then, I would think, at least I would hope.
Mr. Baker, I'm looking on KSBA's appointment checklist. It doesn't list it just basically says that we have to do the paper for 2 weeks. Then after that, the board may choose a candidate.
Right.
And it has to be done within 60 days. And it doesn't have anything else in between.
I will double check that.
Okay, so Mr. Rowe will be taking care of the statutory necessities of this procedure, and we will go from there. All right? And take action or non-action as we see. Number 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the applications, I just wanted to clarify something. Does that application into the board policy 1.3 AP.21, does it constitute for the letter of intent that's identified in the board's vacancy policy 1.3? Because when you read that, it makes you think that there has to be a letter, but then there's a statement above the signature on that says that qualifies for that. So I think we need to get that maybe clarified for people that might be applying out there, that they don't have to do a letter in addition.
Is that a possibility because we have not changed our policy to meet current state requirements for replacing?
No, this is actually the KSBA recommended policy and procedure.
Okay.
The way I read it, Mr. Smith, is this would be their letter when they fill the application out.
Okay. I just wanted to get that clarified and make sure.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on? Okay. Item 6, superintendent and staff reports. Obviously, you can read those at your leisure. Our consent agenda, we have one item there that's going to be tabled. C, the faculty request. There's been a change there, so we're going to remove that from the consent agenda, table it. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda, or do we have any discussion?
Motion, Ricky.
Second, Bruce.
Okay. Vote, Bruce,
Yes.
Alan,
I was just looking, is the electronic paying at the ball games, is that in that section or is that in the action item?
no, it's not, it's an action.
Adams.
Okay, all right, go ahead, yeah, that's fine.
All right, Ricky,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes also. Action items, tax rates. Leanne, I know we've talked to you during the meeting, but this one's yours.
I'll talk to y'all about taxes yet again. I'll just recap kind of what I covered with you all during the working meeting last week. Our rate last year was 54.5, and that brought in 5.7 million. We have the two options. The compensating rate will bring in a similar amount this year. That rate would be 52.9, and it would generate 5.9 million. And then the rate for the 4% revenue increase is 55, and that would generate about 6.2 million. So the difference in the two options is the $237,000. As I've said through the whole entire budget process, Marcia initially calculated in the 4% revenue increase. And so the budget is based on taking that. I think that was about all I'd covered. The difference, Mr. Rowe already covered what the difference would be on a $100,000 house, $200,000 house. I know people like to hear those numbers just to kind of see how it applies. So your decision today would be to either take the compensating tax rate or to take the 4% revenue increase for real and personal tax rates. And then on, so if you want to go ahead and do that part.
Or anything in between.
Go ahead.
All right, I said, or anything in between that amount, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe, what
I mean,
is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that we continue with our 4%. We've worked really hard with our contingency fund to get where it's at. I agree with the comments Mr. Lane had made in the tax hearing, is we want to use those contingency funds for the worst of emergencies. And I still think that time is coming, because as the new Commissioner of Education has said, his number one goal is to help superintendents through this process, because he feels like we're going to be losing a lot of money and possibly staffing with the upcoming budget. So at this point, I would just recommend the 4% because of that.
Alan, comment?
Well, I'll make a motion. It may die. I'm not going to say that, but I'd like to make a motion that we go 2%, just for the simple fact that we'd be helping the school system. I mean, and our taxpayers. I mean, I'm here for both accounts. Don't get me wrong. I'm here representing the people of the county. I'm here representing the school system as well. But I think we need to maybe a common ground, because everyone keeps filling their tax to death as it is. And so I would make a motion that we went 2% instead of the 4%.
Do we have a second?
Second, Bruce.
Okay. Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
No.
And I will vote yes.
We also need to approve the motor vehicle tax rate. That is at 54.2 cents per $100. That amount stays the same every year. That's always been the rate for motor vehicle taxes. So if you guys want to entertain a motion to approve that, and then after that, we will look at the utility tax rate.
Do we have
I'll
a
make the motion.
second?
I'll make the motion, Will.
All right. Alan makes a motion. Second.
Second, Ricky.
Ricky. Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also.
The last rate we would need to approve would be the utility tax rate, and that is at 3%. That remains constant also. It brings in a little over $1 million a year for us.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Bruce and Ricky second. Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Final site-based decision-making council allocations. Leanne?
Yep. The final allocations are due to the schools by September the 15th. You guys have previously approved our staffing allocation formulas, so we're not looking at adjusting those. But what we do after the school year gets started, you take a look at your student numbers to see if there are any adjustments that need to be made, if there are any additional teachers that need to go to schools. This year's a little bit tricky. Of course, well, we got a later start, but we decided to look at the average daily membership on September the 4th was the date that I pulled. Our initial numbers, I used the average daily membership on February the 13th. So we were comparing the numbers from February 13th until September the 4th. Those numbers went down. Our average daily membership in February was 3,412 the day that I pulled. For September the 4th, that was 3,294. So that was a decrease of 118 students district-wide. After, I take those numbers and plug them in the formulas that you guys have approved, there were no changes, there were no increases in staffing that needed to be made at any of the schools. So the action would be no changes with the final allocation.
Okay.
So then basically they're the same, excuse me, as those sections 4, 5, and 7s that we did in April.
Yes, the formulas are not changing and the staffing numbers are staying the same as what has already been approved.
All right. Do we have a motion for no change in allocation?
Motion,
So
Ricky.
moved.
All right.
I'll
Ricky.
second it then.
Okay. Ricky makes the motion. Alan seconds. Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. 2020 CATS Technology Activity Report, Leanne.
Me again.
Yeah,
And so the technology activity report is a report that we're required to submit annually to KDE. As you guys know, we get CATS money, which is technology money every year. And so this is just a requirement. We have to show exactly how we're using technology in the district, where we're spending our money and how much money we're spending. And they just use these reports as justification to show that districts are using the money and in what ways. So we just need to approve. The report covers the 1920 school year, and it breaks it down by commodity code. So was it a student workstation? Was it for telephone? Was it for internet? Exactly. You know, you can look at that spreadsheet. I don't know that it will tell you much. It's kind of cryptic looking, but we just have to have that approved by the board so that it can be submitted, and that will keep us in the running for that CATS money that we receive every year.
okay. Do we have a motion to approve that report?
So moved.
Alan makes the motion, second.
Second, Bruce.
Bruce. Vote. Bruce.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes also. And the 2020-2021 working budget, Leanne.
Hey again. So the working budget is due to KDE by September 30th of each year. So obviously the end of this month. And this is the final step in our budget process for 2021, besides any amendments that would need to be made during the school year. Our contingency, as we said, of course, my figures are based on the 4% increase. So there will be some tweaking that will have to happen. I assume what we can do is approve this budget and then maybe at the next meeting approve an amendment so that we can bring it in line with what the tax revenue is going to be. The contingency and what I actually sent you all was $1,423,000, which was 5%. 2% is what is mandated, so we're well over that. The budget did not include staff raises, and a big help to the budget was that the CERS, that retirement rate, stayed steady at 24.06%. Our seat was projected at just a little over 15 million. Not sure how great I feel about that. Just looking at numbers, it's hard to know what enrollment's going to look like due to COVID. And then overall salary and benefits make up 78% of our general fund, which I think is an appropriate percentage to show there. Alan, did you have a question? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is it possible that some of that money that are going to lose from the 2%, can that be made up out of some of the transportation, for the simple fact that we're going to save over a month's worth of transportation, and who says we're going to get to have transportation at the end of that time period?
Okay, we can look at savings. Of course, we're still paying those employees.
Yes, I understand, but like fuel, I mean, I know we probably saved in a period of a month, I'm sure we saved $15,000 or $20,000 worth of diesel fuel or more.
Okay, yeah,
So
I can evaluate.
basically, we're just looking for $100,000, right?
I can evaluate in transportation and see what the savings are there to help offset that. Like I said, I guess if you want to approve, go ahead and get that working budget approved such that I can submit it. That will give me a little bit of time to make some adjustments based on the tax revenue, and then I can let you guys know what those changes are and have you all approve that at the next meeting. I think that would probably be an appropriate way to handle it.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion, Ricky.
Second.
Second.
Ricky makes the motion, Alan seconds. Vote. Bruce.
Yes.
Alan.
Yes.
Ricky.
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes also.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. MOU with WPBK FM, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, Mr. S, just want me to let you know that he's fulfilling duties at this time, was unable to be a part of this. So he and I met this morning and we're able to go over some of these things. Hopefully I can answer any questions you have. This is the same thing that was presented to you in our working meeting. This is an MOU that would allow WPBK to live stream our athletic events and possibly other events beyond athletics throughout the school year. It sets into place an agreement that we'd allow WPBK to advertise. They would keep the money they do because their radio stream will be part of the video. But either one of us will be able to approach entities to ask them to do commercials on the live stream. Whatever group does that will get 20% of that off the top, and you split the rest of the revenue. It also gives both sides, both parties, a chance at any time to opt out. And I think this is a great thing. We looked at some of the things that the National Federation of High School Sports had recommended, and we were getting a far much better deal by using somebody local. And especially in this time frame, I want to let you know the goal was eventually to charge a fee for this to offset the loss of ticket revenue. But during this school year, we will not be charging any fee whatsoever because we want people to see as many games as they can due to the limited number of seats.
Any discussion or questions? Do we have a motion to approve the MOU with WPBK FM?
Motion, Ricky.
Second,
Second.
Alan. Vote, Bruce,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
and I vote yes also. District funding assurances, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, as again, referring back to our working meeting, this is something that a superintendent has to do annually. Basically, it's a list of 100+ questions asking, are we spending money as we are supposed to based upon the rules, that coming from SEEK funds, title funds, and so forth. Most of the answers we can pull, or I can pull from our audit reports, and some of them I'll have to, meet with other people to find out. But basically, I've answered those questions, and I submitted them already to KDE for pre-approval, but it takes board to approve that to me to send the final version into them. So it's just assuring them that we're following the rules of the game.
Okay, any questions or discussion? We have a motion for district funding assurances.
So moved.
Alan, second.
Second, Bruce.
Bruce seconds. Vote, Bruce,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes also. All right. MOA with New Vista, Tracy Griffin.
Yes, did one with New View. Must be a new thing. Behavioral health is being required to do for part of their liability, probably with COVID. The liability insurance needs an MOU, just stating that they are allowed on our property once we allow people back in. If we don't allow them, then we are going to provide a place for the child to do telehealth with their person and provide a Chromebook or something for them to do that as well. And it also states that they will still provide crisis counseling to their clients if we need it. So we would allow them to come in to do crisis. It just talks about their liability basically, and that we have to provide a place and a Chromebook so they can do telehealth.
Okay. Any questions?
Is this another group from what we talked about earlier? I get the names mixed up. There was one that was with the kids, Healthy Kids Clinic, and that they started a division that done this. Is this the same one, or is this another?
This is a different one. This is actually our comp care within the county. They just changed their name this past year to New Vista. So it's the same people that have been coming into our schools. It's just a new name.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Bruce.
Bruce, second.
Second.
Alan seconds. Vote, Bruce,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes also. Diagnostic positions, Claudia Godby.
Can't hear you.
Okay, now can you hear me and see?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Last week we talked about repurposing a school psychologist position so that we would be able to turn that into 2 positions with 2 retired employees that we would be paying their daily wage threshold. I just want to ask the board's permission to repurpose a position into 2 diagnostician type positions because we cannot find a second school psychologist.
Ms. Godby, what's the money difference between what the psychologist position is going to pay versus hiring these 2 at their daily wage threshold?
Of course, The amount we would pay a school psychologist would depend upon their years of experience.
Understand
So
that.
I'm going to take just a rough estimate. If they had approximately 10 years in, with their extended days, probably 55. And with the two school psychologists or the two diagnosticians, they can work a total of 127 days and the other one 126 days. And I think their daily wage threshold is around $200 a day.
Okay.
So I can put pen to paper and give you a better estimate, but one thing to think about is that we are not paying benefits to the two retired employees that we would be paying in the event that we hired a second school psychologist.
Right.
That's a savings.
Yeah. I was just curious. Alan, question?
Yeah, I got a question. If, say we go ahead and do this, are you still keeping that position posted for future, if you can find somebody to hire for later years? Or, I mean, is that something, how's that going to work?
That would be my preference, Mr. Hubble, is to keep that posted and actively look for a school psychologist, because that is what we need long term. But in reality, I know that we need to provide services now, and I don't see us getting unless someone falls from above, and that would be awesome. I don't see us attracting that school psychologist this school year, but I would like to actively seek to try to find us one for next school year.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not saying that. I just say we go ahead and approve these two. Say you 3 months down the road, you do get an application and find somebody that's willing to start working. Do we do away with these two positions, or are we going to have to double for the rest of the school year, or how's that going to work?
I would come back to you as a board and say we have found someone who fits this bill. And as a retired person, for those ladies, if we enter into this with them, then we have to go with a person who is certified for a position and would let the two ladies who are retired know in plenty of time, hey, we found this person and we're not going to need your services any longer.
So in other words, if we did hire someone, say down the road, we don't have to keep paying all three of them. We would give them a notice that they was going to be let go. Okay. That's what I was getting at.
As a retired person, they aren't guaranteed a position. Now,
Okay.
would I be fair about that and give them as much notice as possible? Yes,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. Because we could find ourselves back in the same position next year and need the services of these two ladies. So I would be as fair as I could with them. But I'll be honest, there are only two universities that are putting out school psychologists, and that is University of Louisville and University of Kentucky. And Jefferson County and Fayette County are going to continue to suck up those folks who graduate with that school psychologist degree.
Any
I
other
think you
questions?
noticed last week that these are coming out of like your program funds, right?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Bruce, I'm sorry.
Second.
All right, Bruce makes it. Alan second. Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Head Start Connects case studies, Ms. Hahn?
Hello.
Hey.
This is just the case study we talked about in our working meeting last week. We are, you have the contract. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer any of those. I will say that we had a policy council meeting, and we were not able to get a quorum. We had somebody that was sick in the doctor's office and somebody that didn't get finished with their new job. They have a job that they've just recently gotten and we're not able to get finished. So I will have to take this back to them. But you can approve prior to them approving, since you are the executive body, and I can take it back to them as soon as we can get a quorum back together. This virtual meeting is very difficult for them, especially when we've got parents that have kiddos that they're trying to teach while they are trying to be in a meeting. But we tried to schedule a convenient time and it just didn't work out today. So
Okay.
I'll take it back before then, before we act on anything, of course.
Okay. Well, we've had the details shared with us. Do we have first off, any discussion?
I guess just as long as the things that I brought up last week about the PPRAs, which is because I feel like there's already going to be surveys and questionnaires and those type things, as long as those and the FERPA notifications are given to the families, I'm good with it. And then pending that the policy council does approve it.
Okay. Anyone else? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Ricky.
Second?
Second, Bruce.
Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Coaching positions, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, this is an opportunity to create positions that's not going to cost the board anything, which is very rare. But we've had some booster clubs that are requesting that we hire positions one for football, one for track, and one for softball. All these funds would be paid through the booster clubs to the board. That'll be the only difference than a normal assistant coach we would hire. They would still have to do their background check, drug tests, and so forth. Basically, the quarterback club wishes to finance an assistant coach at a salary of $1,500. The track and field want to finance an additional assistant coach for $800. And the softball boosters wish to hire an assistant for $800. Again, this will be paid by the booster clubs. If the board does approve this, I would like to recommend that we'd add the stipulation that if the funds dry up from the booster clubs, that these positions will be dissolved, because I don't want us allocating money for something that wasn't our idea to begin with, to say the best way.
My question is that when I look at the salary schedules, those salaries are different. I don't think they match up with the other assistant.
No, they are less than the other assistants. So this would, if the board so chooses to go this route, we would need to add these to our salary schedule as a different type of assistant. I don't know exactly how we'd word that.
Probably need to get Mr. Baker's input there.
Yeah, no, if we're going to pay that position, we absolutely need to amend the salary schedule and list that position. That, or, and I don't have this schedule in front of me, I don't know, but you obviously can choose to make up the difference in those two. I don't know what the difference is in saying that, but I mean, I think the easiest and cleanest way would be just to add that position with the new salary rate at it.
Well, looking at the salary schedule, I have it here in front of me. The Lincoln County High School first assistant is $45.49.
But he's not listed as a first assistant. He's just listed as a varsity assistant. I think if you look at the salary schedule, that one was a $2,600.
The varsity assistant is $29.15.
2015, yeah. That would be the one that he would fall into. I believe. We'd have to ask Coach E about that, but I believe that would be the category he would fall into, that coach would. Still doesn't matter.
I would think, though, if they are financing these positions, and of course we're hiring, these people know what they're getting paid when they come in. We don't have to match it on our salary schedule. We have booster clubs pay coaches all the time. I'm familiar with that, where they're not getting paid what's on our salary schedule because the booster club is actually paying the salary.
Well, and I'll double check that. It technically would be one of our employees.
I got a I got a comment. I'm with Mr. Rowe. That was what I was gonna say a minute ago. If we go ahead and do this, and I don't have a problem with the Booster Cubs paying the assistant coaches at all, that's a great idea. But we definitely need to have it worded to where if the funds dry up from their end, the position dries up as well. We're not gonna continue it from the board end. And I'll agree with Wynn on as far as the money goes. And Jonathan, what we need to do is probably just create another position and call it an assistant coach with that money beside of it, and that's a position they're hard to, and that's it.
I mean, I
Correct?
don't have any problem with it either. I just wanted to make sure no issues with the difference between the salaries here.
Right.
And one way, Alan, to relieve your concern, which is correct, which is a good concern, is to require the booster clubs to pay that by a certain date, so it's already paid up front before the season.
So what notification has to be given to a coach as far as discontinuing their employment, I guess would be the question. That'd be the deadline we need to have the week before that. If we didn't have the money the week before the deadline to notify they's terminated.
Correct, before setting the salary schedule, usually I think we can do an amended one this year. But I think normally going forward, we do it before we set the salary schedule so that we didn't have to amend it throughout the year.
Which I think, the booster clubs, they probably more than likely know if they was going to have the money for the next year or not. As long as they know the deadline, or I would think they would.
Right.
Yeah, and this just off the cuff comment, and I know this is not in any way questioning our head coaches or our athletic director. They all do fantastic jobs with our students and athletes. I just would love to make sure that Tim is doing a very good job vetting this and making sure that we're not just trying to get our buddies an extra couple $100, $1,500 just to have them on staff. That if it's a benefit to the kids, it's an absolute no-brainer to help the kids develop. But I can honestly say I've been a part of teams to where it was daddies harassed the booster clubs to get on the staff, and that was a way to make it happen. And it just doesn't look good. I'm not saying any of these situations are that. I think it needs to be governed very well as also, and I'm sure that Coach E is doing a good job of that. But just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So do we need to create these and then amend our salary schedule?
I think at this point, we're approving the hiring of those coaches that the booster clubs are going to pay for, and then I guess we would add the positions after. Can we do that? Add it to the salary schedule. Can we just do it that way?
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay. So, open for a motion.
Motion, Ricky.
I'll make a second, but I'm gonna make a quick comment too. So by doing this, are we gonna put in the motion that in order for it to take place, that they're gonna have to go ahead and deposit the money? That's what I'm getting at. We're probably behind the deadline, what we would have before now, in upcoming years. But
Right.
if you're gonna start a program, if I call and order parts, they want the money then. So if we're gonna create these positions, are we gonna require the money to be deposited in the school account at this point, or how's that gonna work?
I don't think
Make a recommendation. We basically just put that on the salary schedule with an asterisk, basically explaining that if the money's not deposited by X date, then the position's not there.
Okay.
And you can.
I'll second the motion. I don't have a problem with the motion.
Any other comment? Motion's been made, seconded, vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
yes, sir.
And I vote yes also.
Mr. Smith, really quick, I hate to interrupt, but I muted myself a minute ago and talked to Ms. Smith. We probably need to have it reflect in the minutes that instead of saying 8%, we need to talk about the actual property rate. The property rate would be 53.95 cents.
Okay.
2%. And of course, a motor vehicle would be at 54.2 cents, and a utility at 3%. So we may want to take a motion just to do that. That way it's correct in the minutes.
All right. What was the property rate again per hundred?
53.95.
Okay.
I make a motion. We use the rate of 53.95
Okay. Second?
cents.
I think I second that, right?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
No.
I'll vote yes again. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Cashless tickets, Mr. Rowe.
Yes, this is something I want the board to consider. I want to start by saying our goal is not to go completely cashless. I don't think that fits 100% in our community. We have a lot of folks who use cash, don't use credit cards and so forth. But we want to have the option to do both. This is something we see at the collegiate level. It's been around for a long time. This, if the board so chooses, we would use GoFan as a way to do cashless ticketing, very similar to what you would say Ticketmaster does. Now, there is a fee with this. It's $1 a ticket. And that's something the athletic department would have to take into consideration. As of right now, we don't plan on using it this year because they're limiting the number of folks who can come in the games anyway. So when we get back to normal, hopefully the normal that we knew previously, this would just be an option that we could try for a year to see, is this worth doing? And if it is, it's something we can continue doing. If it's not something that's working, that's something that I would recommend that we don't do anymore. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I do. Two things. If we go to this GoFan, we would still have, you would have a choice: buy your ticket through GoFan or buy through cash, right?
Yes. I never want to turn away cash.
But even though they charge a fee, the cost per ticket will be the same however you buy it, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if they wanted to go up to cover the fee later on, they would still have to come through the board to do that, correct?
That's board approval to increase any fees, yes.
Okay.
I just got a quick question. Somebody contacted me and they seemed to think that, which they was with the athletic department to an extent, and they seemed to think that they was going to charge $6 for the tickets to compensate for the other $1.
I had a conversation with Mr. Estes this morning. No, other districts last year had raised the rate to $6, and Mr. Estes had come to the board and talked about that. My understanding is the other districts now are bringing that back down to $5, mainly for the reason of less money being transferred back and forth. So at this point, I would not recommend we go to $6.
Here we became a trendsetter, didn't we?
I believe we have. In a good way.
I don't have a problem with using the cashless tickets, but we definitely, but I'd want the stipulation that the cash ticket sales at the door would have to remain some way, somehow. If we're afraid somebody, as far as transferring money, if they have to wear rubber gloves or whatever, everybody's still going to McDonald's and getting hamburgers. So I don't see a lot of difference.
All right.
I did that today.
Do we have a motion to approve use of GoFan?
I make the motion, the approval of the GoFan with the stipulation that we cannot drop the use of cash ticket sales at the door.
All right, Alan makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Bruce.
I think Ricky chimed in quicker, but that's okay.
Fine.
Yeah. All right. Alan made the motion. Ricky seconded. Bruce, vote.
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. All right. Part-time migrant employees, Ms. Tomlinson?
This is just our routine, what we do every year. Just for a little FYI for you guys, we serve this year 215 migrant students. So this year's the highest we've ever done in a long while. So these would be tutors, maybe a few bus drivers, depending on 21st century, what that looks like if we go in person. But these are usually part-time retired folks that we have to do this. So, like I said, it's just a routine thing.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Do you have a motion?
Motion, Ricky.
Second?
Second, Bruce.
Okay. Vote, Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. Thank you. 2020-2021 non-resident student contracts, Ms. Hart?
Hello. So these are, just a formality that we do every year with one-to-one contracts. Typically, it's done later in the year, but they just changed that this year, and so I have to mail them out before October 1st this year. So I wanted to go ahead and put them on there so I can get them out and get them in other districts' hands before the deadline.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
I'd be curious, just maybe as an FYI, just a report of where we're kind of standing now with the students leaving us and students coming to us. But if there are no other questions, I'm ready to make a motion that we approve the 2021 non-resident student contracts.
Okay, Bruce makes a motion. Second.
Second.
Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes also. Thank you, Ms. Hart. Our executive session is going to be tabled tonight.
We actually got one more in between there, Mr. Smith.
I'm
Salaries.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Changes to 2020-2021 salary schedule. Brandy Hahn.
It's me again. You have the salary schedule in front of you, and actually, typically Ms. Cooper would take this, but these are mostly the changes that we approved at a couple board meetings ago with the changes that we did to preschool. There's not really a whole lot of changes as far as the pay of the folks, but there were several that were not on the salary schedule. So the ones that were not on there, or anything that has changed, is in red. So I will start on the classified salary schedule, which should be the second page. The first thing is the Family Resource Center. We're not changing the salary in that at all, but we have just created that. We've had to have a couple situations where we've had to have a sub in those positions. The state strongly encourages that because that grant fund needs to be used for salary as it's budgeted out. And so we just added that we have a sub rate for the Family Resource Center. So that's something a little outside of preschool, but still in that needs to be adjusted. If you go down to the preschool Head Start, we added the family liaison with a bachelor's degree. That was not on there before, but that changed. I think it was either 2016 or 17, that they have to have a bachelor's degree or be able to earn one in 18 months. And so we agreed that that would follow the same salary schedule as the social service worker that is on our salary schedule. And so I've added that in with those days. We also approved a couple board meetings ago that the Stanford liaison would have a stipend because there's so many more classrooms here. And so that's added on there as well. Prior to this edit, those salaries were figured in days. I'm learning that many years ago, their contracts were written as days. But they have since been amended to be hours. And so we just fixed that. Instead of having a daily rate, they will have an hourly rate. It's the same rate that they're getting paid. We just divided that out by hours. There was also not a sub rate of pay on there. So we went ahead and added that, and it's just the same as what the other ones would be. Those early childhood classrooms do not require a teaching certification to be in those early Head Start classrooms. So that's what the change is there. If you go over to the next page, which is talking about stipends and or actually extended days, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner there, the family liaison for Head Start at Stanford is actually 10 additional days than what the other family liaisons are, which gives them a total of 215. The family liaisons have 205 days. That's not a change from what they had before. It just is was not on the salary schedule. The school readiness and curriculum specialist was not on we had two positions that we combined into one. Neither of those were on the salary schedule, so we've added those. And then the Head Start Family Health and Disabilities Manager, that was a position that we already had, and it is just wasn't on the salary schedule, so we just put it all on there, so everything was there. And then the elementary instructional coaches were actually paid a teacher salary prior to when we added on the 10 days, when we made the adjustment a couple weeks ago. So we just added that on to the schedule so that it would be clear. Everything that we are paying is now on the schedule.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hahn. Questions or discussion?
Do we need to table this until we get the coaching salaries from the booster clubs on here?
Well, I was gonna say, we could make that amendment tonight, just as part of the vote, to add the, football $1,500, the track of 800, and the softball of 800. We can go ahead and add those now on one vote.
Okay.
Since we were talking about the allocation of the money from the booster clubs, can we just call that, where, like Ricky said, go ahead and put it on there and say assistant booster club coach, or label it as that? That way, I mean, won't be no doubt that that's the exact fund it's supposed to come from.
Or I think, I mean, maybe Ms. Smith can tell me if I'm wrong, but just put an asterisk there and put booster club funded.
Mr. Smith, or I mean, Mr. Hubble, I changed that amended motion, if this is okay. Approve the changes to include the newly created preschool positions and the booster club funded coaching positions in the 2021 salary schedule. Does that work?
Works for me.
Yeah, no, I think that would be fine.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second, Ricky.
Ricky? Vote. Bruce?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes, I had my microphone turned on.
Thank you. Ricky?
Yes, sir.
I vote yes also. All right. Jumped the gun a little bit on this while ago, sorry. We're going to table our executive session tonight, which was to deal with superintendent evaluation. I think board members would feel better to meet in person in order to do that. And so our next in-person meeting, we will schedule that evaluation closed session. All right. All I need now is a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I assume everybody votes yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.